Okay, ladies, we've all bought these jeans. We all thought they were cute as could be. Welcome to my dog, Jasmine. And they had that nice shabby chic kind of little holes in them. And then you washed them a few times. And then you washed them a few more times. And you woke up in the morning and somehow you didn't sign up for these kind of jeans. These just make you feel stupid. Some people can wear them, they look really cute, but I don't know if it's my age, my size, whatever it is. I feel silly in these, but I do have a little fix and it won't cost you anything. So let's get started. So I'm starting off with a piece of fabric. This was a scrap I had from a blouse, and I'm just trying to get it a little bigger than my patch here because it's easier to trim it after I have it sewn on than before. And I have just a piece of regular white paper which I'm going to slide into the leg underneath so I don't attach one side of the pants to the other, because as silly as that sounds, I've done it. So let me slide this in and get it in place, and then I'll show you where we go from there. Now I've got the paper behind this and I put the piece of fabric in, and it actually fell kind of lucky the way this flower bud fell. I actually like the way that looks. And you can see how much of the jeans are missing. When they distress these jeans, they really destroy a whole big pocket of the jeans, and that's why it doesn't take much for them to rip apart. So I kind of find that the paper is much easier to help you pin this. And what I want to do is just pin around this section, probably the wrong direction, but that's fine, I'll switch it. And I just want to pin it down so that I get all these little edges, because this can be really tricky because it's such a wonky shape here and it's so unnatural. Now if you wanted to, you could trim this up, which probably would be easier, but I kind of like that little bit of a frayed look. So what I do is I leave it while I'm sewing, and after I get done with it, then I trim up the extra edges that aren't too frayed. But I think this one's too far that it's just going to get caught in my thread probably. But I do like some of these frays. I think they're kind of cool. They have some texture, and I think that's what attracted me to the ripped jeans in the first place, is the texture. But I'm just not into this big ripped knee flopping open. And this, if you get it laid down flat on a table, you will get the right perspective, because if you tried to do this on and tried to pin it on you, you won't be able to see how this naturally fills in. Now I'm going to use a different color contrasting thread, not just for you, but because I like the way it color contrasting. These are already kind of country shabby chic looking as it is, and that's kind of why I'm going with this pink fabric. I have this greenish thread. I could have used a blue or something that matched the jeans more. I really like this green because it contrasts with the flower bud, and I have just a little bit of it left, so I'd love to use it up because it really has no purpose for me. So I just put this into a needle, and I have doubled it over and made a huge knot on the back. And I will start to sew from the inside of the pants. And let me thread this through because I've got to get my arm in there to thread this through. It can be a little tricky. This is a wonky kind of a spot, so it's going to be a little challenging for me to do this tutorial, but I'm going to go through the leg and come up through over here, and then we'll start to sew it. So I've come up through the leg, and you can see there's like a split over here. That is the first place that I want to start to stitch. Now, I am not doing blind stitch and things that you don't see. I actually feel that these stitches are part of my design. I, like I said, want these to be a little shabby chic, a little bit country looking. So I actually want to see the stitches, and sometimes I will take embroidery floss and do stitches on top of this with a contrasting color if I don't feel that there's enough contrast, because I just like the look of it. I think if you're going to add something, you might as well make it look like it's part of a design factor than something you're trying to hide, because you cannot hide this type of a patch. So I'm trying to go up through, and I want to attach these two pieces together using the fabric underneath. Now, basically all I'm doing is stitching large stitches around this. And like I said, if I feel that there's not enough strength with just this thread, I will go over this with embroidery floss, but I get the feeling we could probably be just fine with some thread. And now I'm just going to go and gently follow this whole tear in these jeans. And I'm just going to continue around attaching it. Now, like I said, I'm not sure if I can do this in one shot or two shots, but the decorative color, I don't know how much it shows up on the camera, but it really does add a lot of little detail, and it does look really cute with the shabby chic. Now, finding floral fabrics, they can be very expensive. I find just going to the thrift store, doesn't matter what size it is, if I'm going to tear it up and use it for my shabby chic type of crafts, it's better to pay a few dollars for a little blouse than to pay $12 a yard of fabric that I probably will never use that entire yard. And I like to recycle as much as possible, so this is just a great way to use up those little fabric scraps left over from other projects. And I find a lot more floral fabrics at the thrift store than I have ever found at the fabric store. And so I'm just going to continue all the way around this hole, and I will come back once I'm done. Now down here I have a long tear all the way down the center here. So how I'm going to go through this is I'm just going to do each side separately. The temptation to just do one long stitch across here to start out with is pretty much there, but I'm not going to do it because I feel that the fabric underneath is going to get too much strain and might rip. So instead I'm going to sew each side until I get them closer together, and then I'm going to sew one stitch across. I think we need one more here. And the best thing to do here is just, the pins almost get in your way as you're going, is just keep going across this. And what I will do is I will go down sewing this, and I will come back up so you can see that split right there. And that split, if I don't fix it right now, will start to tear down the whole leg the next time I wash it. So it's just easier to give it a little reinforcement now, and I have found that the jeans I have repaired with this have lasted numerous washings without any problems. Because before I was going to do a tutorial on that, I wanted to see if this was worth anything or a waste of time. And so I'm going to continue going down to the bottom here. I'll do a couple more stitches and then I'll slowly come back up so it gets really reinforced. Now as I come up to the top here, I'm going to continue going across over both pieces so that I pull that together, because that split in the fabric is actually a weak spot, and that's why it really tore it up so much. And I want to make sure that that split does not continue to happen and stress out this fabric underneath here, because this actually is just a light cotton fabric. It's just a blouse. And I find that if I just go back and forth over this split a few times, it seems to hold it really well. Because the knee area, thigh area, is a kind of a spot that gets a lot of pull on it. And I find that this really holds it in nicely. And I try to just hold some of those little frays down. As much as I love those frays, they can get caught into your thread because this is cotton thread. But just pulling it as you go along and just reinforcing it. And don't worry about your stitches being different or wonky. They actually look really cute like this. If you see the ones I've previously done, they're very cute. They kind of have that homemade, hand-done look, very shabby chic. Something you'd probably pay a little bit more for if you saw these in the shop. So here you're taking an old pair of jeans that you probably really wouldn't have liked to wear again, or if you wore them a few more times, they'd probably just fall apart. And you're actually making them new again. So let me finish this up, and then I'm going to come back and show you how we can put some embroidery floss on top of that if you wanted to decorate it more, or you could leave it plain, up to you. Well, I finished sewing it, and I want to show you my great sewing job. My pinning job, I actually pinned the fabric over on itself and sewed on top of it. I'm not going to worry about it. It'll just give it more reinforcement. But what I do like to do is just go around and trim up this fabric so that I get some of this bulk out. And that's all you really need to do is get that trimmed up and it'll stay just fine. Now, normally I would have one thin layer here, but I goofed. Welcome to the club. I could probably cut this out here, but I'm kind of feeling like it's probably good reinforcement, so I'm going to leave it. Now, I love the way this looks all finished, and I probably would just leave it like this, except I'm from the 70s, and if you're from the 70s, you probably know what I'm talking about. I used to embroider all over my jeans. So a lot of you may have not seen what embroidery floss is or know what this is. If you're from the 70s, you know what I'm talking about. And I only have a few colors because my darling daughter has taken my entire stash to college, and I'm sure when she's watching this, she's going to be mad that I didn't use pink, but she has the pink. Now, to use this embroidery floss, if you've never seen it before, it comes in like a little skein like this in the fabric store, the craft stores. And I've put mine on cards, whatever's left over, so it doesn't tangle. What you usually do with this is split this into pieces. It's not like normal thread. And so it usually comes with, let me see, I think it's 6 pieces. And I usually split it in half, which is 3 pieces. So it's sort of like 3 pieces of thread would probably do the same thing, but with the floss, I just split it in half, and then I thread my needle. So let me go do that and come back. Now this is entirely decorative. You could do this with some fancy stitches. If you search embroidery, you will see lots of cool fancy stitches, but I'm going to just do something very basic and very beginner that you need no skill to do. And I'm just going to do some more exaggerated stitches because I think this is kind of cool looking with the big stitches. And I just want to show you what you can do that's just a little different and that you don't have to have any skill or any drawing capability to do this. And it's just a contrast to give a little bit more depth. It's sort of like if you wanted to sew some pearls on or something different. And you could do just X's up at the pockets or some simple chain stitch. But you can already see it just makes a decorative look. And I'm just going to do it down one side just because I can. And it's not a necessary kind of thing. Like I said, it's because I'm from the 70s and used to embroidering on my jeans. And now it's starting to come back. I'm seeing it a lot in magazines with that whole boho chic kind of a look. And so if you're going to add the fabric, you might as well add a little something to it. I'm going to finish this up and come back and show you how cute it looks with just a little embroidery floss, which is very, very inexpensive and just a different idea that's simple and quick. Now I'm on the other leg and I'm noticing that there's this kind of Frankenstein looking pattern going on here that I'm not really feeling how this would look. And I think that would look better with this piece sticking out. So just to give you a little advice of what I do here is I am going to cut this kind of strange piece off because I don't like the way he looks and I think it actually looks better with the patch. And I sort of see this piece here, but I'm not sure whether I should just cut it or leave it. I think I'm going to leave it and just trim this up and then do it the same as I did the other leg and take all these little strings out because these will just have a tendency to get stuck in your thread, and you'll know what I mean if you leave them on the first time. As much as I love these little fluffies, they do have a tendency to be troublemakers. And it will re-fluff up after you've washed these again anyway, so you don't have to worry about losing them too long. And I have all these long threads where it's shredded. I'm just going to cut those too so they don't get in my way before I sew this up. But I do think it looks better with that extra sticking out versus that piece that was just sticking up and kind of looked weird there. So I'm going to sew this side up and I'll come back and show them to you finished. Just for a little fun, I thought I'd do a little embroidery on the pocket, and I'm just basically doing some simple little X's, which are super basic. You go from, and you can use your stitches as a guide, 2 stitches in between, you make a angled stitch, and then you go backwards and go back across to the top of that other X and go back and forth and keep repeating that. Very, very simple. Adds a cute little touch if you're interested in doing something so simple like a basket weave on the pocket. You don't have to do it, just something for fun. Thought I'd show you how to do it when you see it all done so you know if you wanted to add it, this is what you do and how you do it. Okay, I just wanted to show you another pair of jeans that I did a little bit differently. These I put more of a patch on, just a regular standard patch where you fold the edges over and sew on top. I wasn't crazy over this look, but it was done. I did it. I was too lazy to take it off. I liked this style much better. That's the one that I showed you how to do just because I thought that was kind of more interesting looking. Kind of went with that ripped jeans kind of look, where this I thought was more like I was trying to hide the holes and I really thought it would look cute, but it's only okay. Not my favorite look, but I'm just hanging around the house so it's fine. And I just wanted to show you some different looks you can get. And I also put up on the pocket just a little embellishment over here that I hand dyed. I'll show you how to dye some things in one of my other videos because I do like to take embellishments from wedding gowns, different types of dresses and things that I find at the thrift store, hand dye them and add them to things that add a lot of detail, and they're just kind of cool and fun looking. And here you have it, the finished pair of jeans. Just adding that little bit of fabric, which was just an old blouse that I probably was going to throw away. Well, you know I wouldn't throw any little scraps of fabric away. I'm just too frugal. But just switching up that little bit of fabric, how it made these jeans feel so much more comfortable. I don't feel so exposed. I won't be cold. And the other thing is it added this beautiful little touch of pink, which I love because just adding a pink kimono to this exact same white t-shirt and a belt just changes the whole look. I'm wearing one of my shibori necklaces, which a lot of people say, what would you wear that with? It's so fancy. A t-shirt and jeans. What else would you wear it with? You could wear it with a fancy skirt or a plain skirt, but I always like to take my fancy jewelry and put it with my kind of dressing down clothes. I find that it kind of is a nice contrast and a nice complement. The only thing is I don't like a lot of pieces on at once. I find that one piece is a statement piece. If you have too much going on, it just kind of takes away from everything. But on the side pocket, this is where I just added those little cross stitches just to add a little something different. And on the one side where I added the embroidery floss, and I only had one color of embroidery floss that was really worth working with, but you can see you don't need a whole lot to switch things up. You can use whatever you have around. Think about if you look in your linen closet, if you happen to have any napkins. I find lots of fabulous prints on napkins. If you go to the thrift store, they're like 50 cents. And that's all you need for something like this to do a patch. So you don't always have to go to the fabric store to find things. You can even just go look around your house or even in your closet. I'm sure you have things that you just have a tear in them, a spill on them, and you don't know what to do with it. Rework them, reuse them. You'd be amazed what you can do with things. I hope you enjoyed that, and thanks so much for watching.